Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm part of the communications team here at Nautilus International. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with Barbara Campbell, a long-standing Nautilus member and a true pioneer in the seafaring world. She's one of the first women to be taken on as a cadet and went on to serve at sea before building a career in maritime training. Barbara's journey is one of breaking barriers and inspiring the next generation of seafarers, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share her story. So, you're now known as a prominent figure in the UK sail training sector, but how did you get started in seafaring, and were there other seafarers in your family, and where did you work at first?
Did I have any other seafarers in my family? Not really. My father was a very keen sailor. His father had worked briefly at sea, but as a chief steward, but no other real seafarers, no. I did end up in sail training, but when I first went to sea, really that hadn't been my intention. I had sailed as a child, sailed dinghies as a child, and I decided that I would like to go and work at sea. And I knew that some companies were taking on women, but not very many. And I applied to and joined P&O Steam Navigation Company as a deck cadet. And P&O took on 3 females, 3 of us at the same time, and we were their first 3. 2 of us went on to finish our cadetships, and that was largely on cargo ships. And after I finished my cadetship, I then worked for P&O Cruises, which was a bit of a change really, but there was more opportunity there. I worked for P&O Cruises for about 8 years, and I was a 3rd officer, 2nd officer. During that time, I took my mate certificate and my master's certificate, and a few years later I left there and I started working for P&O Scottish Ferries, running from Aberdeen to Orkney and Shetland.
How did the sail training come about?
I never really thought that I would spend all my working life at sea. Every winter up there in the North Sea, I said I'm never doing another winter up here, but I did. But whilst I was there, it was a system of working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off the ship, and compared to what I'd done before, that seemed quite a lot of leave. So I used to volunteer to be a 2nd officer with the Sail Training Association, and that's how I got started in sail training. And so I did several of those trips. I also did a couple of trips with the Jubilee Sailing Trust, who I ended up with. And they offered me a job as mate, as chief mate, and I thought, oh, that would be really good. Completely different really from what I had done, and I didn't really know a huge amount about square rig sailing. I was learning, and I just continued to learn all the time I was there. And after 3 years as mate, I went back to the Sail Training Association as captain for 3 years, possibly 4, can't remember, and then I went back to the Jubilee Sailing Trust as captain. So I was there as captain for the last 20 years, nearly all of it with the Jubilee Sailing Trust on Lord Nelson and Tenacious, which were specially adapted square rig ships. Or they were built to carry crews. Well, we call them crew really, even though they're like a working crew, but they are passengers. They pay to sail, and we took them to sea, and many of them had, well, a percentage of them have disabilities, I should say. Up to 40% could have a disability. When I first became the mate on Lord Nelson, I thought, this is the most amazing job, I have to say. I loved it. I loved working with the various crews. So that was like voyage crew, that we call the crew that paid to sail on the ships, the volunteer crew, who we had several volunteers sailing, and I liked the maintenance. I liked working up the rigging, and I just loved the planning of the watches and that system. And I actually thought, I never really thought I'd be captain, to be perfectly honest, but when I became captain, I thought, yes, I sort of really got into it. I loved the role, and I would say the most challenging thing that I've done is when we sailed around the world.
Okay.
Or we sailed Lord Nelson around the world. It took 2 years. full of challenges and the most amazing memories.
So going back to this, so what were the biggest obstacles that you faced throughout your career, and what helped you overcome them?
I wouldn't really call them obstacles, but when there is a woman like on the bridge and somebody comes up, even if there's like a male cadet or a male third officer, junior officer, they'll presume that that person is in charge. It's not really an obstacle. I just think it's just the way it is at sea, because people don't really expect to see a woman in that role. And like in dry docks as well, they don't really expect a woman to be the mate of a ship in dry dock. I think more now it's probably more accepted, but in those days not so much.
Yeah. So over the course of your career, did you see more women joining the industry, and did you feel a sense of solidarity or camaraderie with them?
Yes, certainly. So for my first 2 voyages, and they're both 4 months on cargo ships, the 3 of us female cadets that started together with P&O in 1975, we did 2 4-month voyages together. And we were meant to be split up for our second trip, but something happened, and anyway, we stayed together. And that was great. And I was at college with them as well. And then my following voyage, P&O took on another female cadet who I sailed with. But then after that, I didn't sail with any women. I sailed with some wives, yes, but I didn't actually sail with any women working on the ships until I worked on cruise ships. And then, of course, there's a lot of women, none on the deck department when I was there, but obviously a lot of women on the ship. And that there was a nice feeling with that. When I moved from there to P&O Scottish Ferries, no other female officers. I'm just trying to think. There weren't any, but there were obviously women working on the ships. And then but the majority and the closest friendships I formed, I very close friends with the girls I went to sea with. So all 3 of them in my first sort of 2 years, still retain contact with those. But really, since then, the women I have stayed in contact with are those who I met during sail training. And yes, more and more women were coming in while I was there. When I was mate, some of the voyages we had myself as mate, a female second mate, and a female bosun. And that was the most we had, really. And I thought, well, that was great. That was amazing. But I mean, it went on, and there are a lot, and I sailed with a lot of other women who most of them are really good, and everybody works together. And that environment on those ships really was an environment where people did work together. It's very much a team effort.
Throughout the course of your career, have you been involved in mentoring or helping other women at sea get to where you are now?
Not really. If somebody comes and asks me for advice, many of them think that they can sort of do the routes, and they can do it through the yacht master route. But I always recommend they get a proper cadetship and go, when I say a proper cadetship in the Merchant Navy, and go to sea, because first of all, the courses are all paid for, your sea time's there. It's much easier than trying to do it alone. And I have said that to many people who think that the way ahead really is, and it might be for some, to get a yacht masters and to work up, because I think it's easier now doing it that way.
So you've been a member of Nautilus and its predecessors, Newmast, and all the names we've had before, since the 1970s. So what led you to join and to stick with us for all this time?
I think everybody joined, and I just carried on because I felt, you've got somebody there in case things go wrong. You've got somebody at your back. You've got some support if there was any legal cases or anything. So that's why I continued.
So have you ever taken part in Nautilus meetings, conferences? Have you ever volunteered as a lay rep? And what do you think you've gained personally and professionally from being part of the union?
Once I was a lay rep. Once when I worked for P&O Scottish Ferries, I went down and I was in you're asking me. It was to do with women at sea.
Okay.
And it was in Liverpool, and I can't recall. I went down for the conference for 2 or 3 days. After that, I haven't really but I have always carried on in touch, and I've obviously met quite a few of the people who work there, because I have been to various things that Nautilus representatives have been at.
And looking to the future, thinking about the wider maritime industry, what do you think needs to change to better support women in maritime on a wider level?
Well, many women who do go to sea actually leave and do other things, like I know female pilots, I know those who've gone and worked in like VTS, Coast Guard. Some women have gone on and done other jobs that are around the sea, but not actually at sea. Yes, if women want to leave and have children and things, then yes, they do need some support to be able to find jobs. I can't see many of those going back to sea, but I do know some that have had children and have gone back and worked at sea very successfully. So it depends on the person, really, what they want out of it. And I guess that the union is really there to support them on their way.
Thank you so much, Barbara.